What was your first amp?
Fender Champ, one like, I don't know, one 12-inch speaker, Fender Champ, and I don't
Fender
even know
Champ.
what ever happened to that thing.
I
I
don't know.
love that. It's a good setup.
There's one sitting right over there on that shelf.
You have a Fender Champ. Wow.
Well, we'll get back to this later, but when I sold all this, all the musical equipment when I left the United States, I got down here. One of the first things I did was go back and bring back the Strat. And so when I came back to Strat, I was like, well, now what? I'm not going to be lugging around a big amp. So I bought that little Champ. And plus I only do it. I can't play it out loud. I have to do it in headphone. But at any rate, so you had one of those. And what about pedals?
At a Ross Distortion, a
Roth.
Morley Volume slash wah
Mm,
phaser. Yeah, remember the
Phaser.
phaser? Ooh.
You had to have that then because so many people still had the PV Classic. And the
Oh,
PV
the
Classic,
classic came with a
right?
phaser.
It like introduced phasers. For people
Yeah.
out there, it's like the old Alabama guitar sound. I mean, he plays with that thing
A
all the
lot of
time. And plus,
disco.
right? Plus, they're like, I think, aren't they poster people, or is that the thing for PV? Some of those bands that always had PV all over the stage. But
Yeah.
right, and that's what I wanted to get was a PV Classic. And in my usual style, this was not my first amp. My first was some kind of goofy box thing made, I don't know, quasi drywall or something, had like a speaker in it. And it literally had an input jack and like volume and tone and a switch, and a red light and no effect. Oh, let me tell you the story. So I knew the sound of distortion, but I didn't really understand. I was in no position to go get anything. And plus, I'm not even sure I even knew pedals existed. But I had this amp and I had my guitar, and I was trying to, in the basement of my parents' house, they had some old speaker cabinets because this is the days when you had stereos and everything, with actual stereos with record players and things. And people had the big box speakers. And we had some old speakers down in the basement. It was like a cabinet that had like 212s basically in it or something along those lines. And decided, why don't I run these two wires from the back of this amp to that speaker and see if it's bigger, because this speaker was like a little 8 or something. And in the process of doing that, I accidentally let the wires touch. And when the wires touched, I lost about 80% of the volume, but I got that distortion sound.
Right.
And I was like, what is this? So then what I decided to do was this is the beginning of me becoming a Frankenstein guitar person. We both are, by
Yep.
the way.
Yep.
But this led me to somehow using the input from another old stereo basically as a preamp or a power amp, I guess, at this point. Somehow I ran it through it to get more volume, or maybe I ran directly through. I forgot. I have forgotten. But anyway, that was the case. But this did not last long. This sort of introduced me to it. And this is when I parlayed my first set of, I don't know, combination of chores and maybe actually doing 2 weeks worth of homework, into going down to, I don't even know the name of the record music store. This is all in the city of Chicago. And I got my PV Classic, but not the one I wanted.
You had the
So
410,
I
right?
had the 410. I was like, what is
That's
this beast?
huge amp.
It was a monster amp. And I'm like, I don't even know what but looking back at it, I don't really know what my problem with that was, but it wasn't
I
the
don't
one that
either. I was
it was like,
jealous. It's like, holy crap, that thing's huge.
but for some reason, just it wasn't the one that everybody else had, the regular 212.
212.
Right. I had 410s, 10 4 good, buddy. I was like, okay, what is it? I didn't think about it like then, but had I, it would have only made it worse. But so yeah, that was my setup. I had my Memphis Les Paul, and then that, and I don't know if it had a gain to give you distortion, but it's about this time I started getting pedals, and I probably also started with the Ross, because I remember Ross was like the biggie. This is before Boss really became. It was DoD was already around, and MXR pedals. Remember them?